The story begins on a dark day where the illuminated celestial warrior, someone capable of stopping more than 10,000 enemies, a person with incredible intelligence and martial power granted by the heavens, is on top of a rooftop facing a scene of war. This incredible man is the leader of the divine sun and moon cult and the leader of the 4th generation cult called Dongfang Buble. His power can split mountains, fill the ocean, and even collapse the sky, and this is not a metaphor or an exaggeration. However, on the day he was about to conquer the entire world, he was subdued by a surprise and large-scale attack from the rebel Orthodox sect. His only mistake was sending all his troops to force his enemy to surrender. In the next frame, we see Dongfang Buble being stabbed. Despite being tired and on the ground, he destroys several sect troops, who are quickly attacked and torn apart by him in an endless bloodbath. Is there no method more violent than this? Soon, at the foot of the castle, Dongfang Buble is facing a mountain of bodies, the people he himself destroyed. However, one man was spared and mentions he can't move his body. Dongfang Buble explains the reason for sparing him. However, another man tells him to shut up and calls him a demon. Dongfang Buble screams that the man will never be able to lay hands on their greatest secret manuals. Dongfang Buble clarifies that he didn't spare him for the manuals but because he felt like it and wanted the man's face. He places his hands on the man's face, saying that, in the end, his face can't compare to Huron, his son. Dongfang Buble expresses his desire to teach martial arts to Huron after his birth to rebuild the Hua sect destroyed by Dongfang Buble. However, it all remained a dream, and the man apologizes and dies. Dongfang Buble looks at the man, whose face is covered in blood, and explains that he did it all for the sake of removing the darkness cast upon the world by the Yuan dynasty. In the next frame, a candle is lit, and illuminated by it, a gagged and naked man is on a table. A gentleman begins to speak, saying that the man must be scared. He talks about the ancient belief that we receive hair and skin from our parents, emphasizing filial piety. He mentions that causing harm to them is not like losing a limb in a war for the country. It's cutting something important just because one can. So, the man asks the young person if it's the first time he's seen a eunuch like him. The young one starts screaming, and the man says he knows there are people like him in his dynasty. Since he has been brought here, there's no other way. He takes a sharp object, mentioning that this might be considered destiny, and advises the young one to think carefully about his future now that he's going to become a eunuch. The young person begins to scream, and the old man says, in his opinion, the young one might achieve some fame. There's a cut, and suddenly the young person wakes up, screams, checks if everything is okay, and searches to see if he has become a eunuch. Then, he wonders how many times he has had this horrible dream, mentioning hearing that some people receive predictions through dreams like this. He questions why he keeps having these terrible dreams and wonders if someone has cursed him. When suddenly someone arrives shouting his name, which is Ling Hu, he startles, and this man asks Ling Hu if it's so difficult for him to sleep without making noise and calls him useless. Ling Hu apologizes, and the man, named Jae-song, says he doesn't care and warns that if Ling Hu causes trouble again, he'll make him sleep outside. Dongfang Buble then says he'll keep that in mind. Ling Hu wonders how Jae-song can be the son of such an important hero, so he decides to stay quiet. In his thoughts, Ling Hu questions why nobody sleeps in silence there, observing everyone talking in their sleep. He wonders why Jae-song is bothered only by him, even mentioning Jae-song's deceased father. Ling Hu wonders if Jae-song would treat him the same way if he came from a common family like the others. Ling Hu reflects that tomorrow is his birthday. We learn that when the emperor was 12 years old, in the year 140 after hero Ling Hu's death, leaving behind his name as the man who defeated the demonic leader Dongfang Buble, Jae-song, his son, was entrusted to the reinstated Hua Mountain sect. Then, Jae-song wakes up all the brothers, shouting at them to get up immediately. When it's apparent that everyone is ready, Jae-song criticizes Ling Hu for falling behind again. The brothers mention Ling Hu's mishaps from the previous day, saying Jae-song is exaggerating. One of them tells Ling Hu that today the first brother is doing it for his own good. Another young man named Im Chungyum, one of the strongest despite his incredible abilities, is mentioned. Ling Hu admits to feeling a bit envious of his talent. Jae-song shouts Ling Hu's name, asking if he's having trouble sleeping and what kind of nightmare he had. Ling Hu wonders if he should tell him about the dream of losing his most precious part and becoming a eunuch that haunts him every night. Ling Hu questions if that would make him weird and asks why Jae-song isn't saying anything. Ling Hu decides to forget it, warning that if Jae-song finds out, he'll call him an idiot. Ling Hu starts to speak but is interrupted by himself, telling him to forget it. With no reaction from Ling Hu, he expresses his dislike for being called an idiot. Jae-sung talks about the curses of the orthodox sects, how they formed a grand alliance when they were on the verge of destruction, and did nothing. He emphasizes becoming the strongest, introducing Ling Hu Jiang as the one who should become the strongest in this complicated world. Jae-sung says Ling Hu is too weak for this challenging world. The scene changes to the brothers' training, where Jae-sung announces that today's training is cancelled. He mentions they'll fight a lot tomorrow and, for today, they'll work on the 6 harmonious arts and the basic internal Kai cultivation technique. Jae-sung says that learning this technique is the only way to purify their body and mind. We see a brother who finds all of this boring in his thoughts. Jae-sung calls him, saying that if he doesn't want to do it, he can go clean the Taoist hall or the training ground for tomorrow. The brother apologizes and says he will do his best in tomorrow's training. Jae-sung then asks another brother what he is doing, and he says he is regulating his breathing. Jae-sung mocks him, saying he looks like a spider monkey trying to imitate a human. He shouts, questioning how they will achieve anything in life if they train like this. Someone is seen climbing the stairs. Meanwhile, Jae-sung continues explaining how to use Kai, and Ling Hu comments that this is just the basics. Jae-sung instructs them to inhale and silently exhale the old energy through their mouths, reminding them to remember it. He tells them to repeat this at least 30 times. Then, he instructs them to reverse the principles of the 6 harmonious arts, to concentrate, and to start from a small point that will gradually grow. He emphasizes that the 6 arts are a technique that fills the darkness of their hearts. Ling Hu walks among the brothers, observing Chen training perfectly, and comments that the others aren't worth looking at because they lack talent. However, he encourages them to improve and become first-grade martial artists, making the sect strong. Suddenly, Jae-sung notices something incredible, a blue glow emanating from Ling Hu. He wonders if this is really Ling Hu. Jae-sung is surprised by Ling Hu's amazing ability and shouts for him to stop. Ling Hu doesn't respond immediately but eventually stops. When he comes to his senses, he sees everyone staring at him, asking what just happened and how he did it. Ling Hu asks what he did, and one of the brothers tells him that he just performed the 6 harmonious arts perfectly. Ling Hu questions if he did it perfectly, and Jae-sung tells the brother to be quiet. Jae-sung then slaps the brother's face, shocking everyone around. He asks what he did, and Jae-sung calls him arrogant, questioning if he thinks the 6 harmonious arts are a third-class martial art that kids like them can perform perfectly. Jae-sung states that it's the most basic type of martial art, and they shouldn't underestimate it. Following this, Jae-sung scolds the brothers at length. One of the brothers says that Jae-sung shouldn't treat them this way just because he's the oldest. Another brother tells him to calm down. The young man who received the slap decides to go home. Others try to dissuade him, saying his house is too far, but he insists on leaving. Shejong mentions that everyone knows it's not his fault, and it would be unfair if it happened to him. Shejong advises him to be careful next time, and this applies to all of them. We see Ling Hu's fearful expression. Everyone praises Ling Hu, saying he was sensational and truly amazing. They ask him how he managed to do that and insist that he shouldn't be selfish. He should share it with them. Ling Hu says he doesn't know how he did it and doesn't remember anything. The brothers find it impossible for him to forget something so important, and when they suggest he should share, Ling Hu sweats, feeling like he's lying to his superiors. He thinks he genuinely lost consciousness while following Jae-sung's breathing instructions and can only recall not knowing in what position he was before regaining consciousness. Then, Ling Hu sees a silhouette resembling A1. He confirms it was definitely him and that the people around were chanting, and he can still hear it if he concentrates. The chants were for long life, the unification of Jianghu, and the worship of the sun and the moon. In the next scene, Jae-sung receives a scolding from a superior, who mentions that if he had taken any longer, Ling Hu would be in serious trouble. This superior is Jae-sung's master, No Seum, the founder of the restored Hua Mountain sect. He states that a person's Kai center is not just a container, and internal Kai is not merely water. He compares it to a container not breaking no matter how gently water is poured in. However, if the center is rapidly flooded, it will break. When internal Kai overflows from the broken center, it leads to a state of Kai deviation. Jae-sung nervously thinks about Ling Hu's potential destruction, but the master clarifies that it was the 6 harmonious arts and nothing else. He expresses surprise that someone practicing the basics almost entered a Kai deviation. The master compares it to riding a donkey and trying to make it run like a horse, saying it would only be possible if the person had the same internal Kai as a sect leader, with a center so profound that it couldn't overflow. Jaesong admits that the master is right, and unfortunately, Ling Hu was born with an extremely small Kai center, making it challenging to compare him with an ordinary person, let alone a martial artist. Jaesong asks the master if someone like him has any secrets, and the master is uncertain but thinks it's possible. He mentions the oath he made with the boy's mother to protect him from demonic cultists no matter what. The master doesn't know what will happen after his death but emphasizes that Ling Hu is too weak now. If he continues in the world as he is, not only will the demonic cult target him, but he'll also die if exploited by the 9 major sects. If they leave him as he is, it will be like watching him die. Jaesong is shocked, and the master suggests they let him go. He believes that those cultists won't harm someone who has left the Murim, and there might be someone more compatible with the boy. The master tells Jaesong that it will be tough for him, being a younger brother, but it might be better for him. Jaesong refuses to let that happen and promises to personally take care of it. The master tells Jaesong to do what he thinks is best and asks if everything is going as planned for tomorrow's event. Jaesong confirms and asks to be excused. As Jaesong leaves, the master stares at the horizon. The next day was the day of the comprehensive evaluation that occurs once a year. Jaesong says he hopes they can use the skills they have honed in the sect so far and that they should give their best today. So, Jaesong wishes good luck to everyone. They thank Jaesong. Jaesong calls Ling Hu and asks him to wait for a moment. Everyone wonders if the elder brother will punish him again, and they say his actions are like those of a demon. In another place, Jaesong begins to talk about the great hero Ling Hu Tian. Jaesong says he could admire him only once when he was young, and even when he departed for the distant lands where the great Jade temple of the demonic cult was located. He remained calm and greeted everyone with a big smile. Jaesong mentions that Ling Hu had a strong and dignified spirit. Jaesong says that even with his young eyes, he could see it. Then he questions how a person of such noble Tai bloodline could be born with such a small Kai center. Ling Hu is left bewildered, wondering why Jaesong is so quiet today, and there isn't much time left for the comprehensive evaluation to begin. Ling Hu wonders if Jaesong will teach him some secret technique or something that can help him pass. Jaesong starts talking to Ling Hu and tells him to pay attention. He says Ling Hu has no talent for martial arts. Ling Hu is stunned, and in his thoughts, he wonders if it took all this time just to tell him what Jaesong says every single day. Jaesong continues to speak, saying that because of this, Ling Hu should leave the restored sect of Manhwa. Ling Hu is taken aback and asks what he said, questioning if he has to leave the sect. Jaesong says that both he and the master know the amount of effort Ling Hu has dedicated, and clenching his fists nervously, he says the master was a disciple of his late father. Jaesong shouts that it's the reason he joined the restored sect, as his father was a member, and it's only natural for him to be one too. Jaesong claims he has no right to expel Ling Hu, and he always finds some reason to criticize him. He asks why Jaesong hates him more than others, calling him very cruel. Jaesong becomes furious and tells him not to misunderstand. He says Ling Hu is smarter than everyone else, grabbing his shoulders. Jaesong acknowledges Ling Hu's fame among the brothers for memorizing everything he reads at least once. He talks about how marvelous Ling Hu would be if his martial arts were as good as his memorization skills, mentioning that each person has a different innate strength, and that's the reason. Then, Jaesong tells him to leave the sect, take the past as a lesson, find a way to succeed on his own, and become a high-ranking official. Jaesong says the current world is no longer a world of barbarians. Ling Hu mentions that he always thought Jaesong hated him. Jaesong admits he truly hated him. Ling Hu says he will try, and Jaesong remains unresponsive for a moment, saying he made a good choice. However, in reality, Ling Hu says he misunderstood. He wanted to participate in the evaluation. Ling Hu thanks him for the concern but says he is not interested in a governmental position and wants to follow in his father's footsteps. Jaesong is incredulous, saying Ling Hu is very stubborn and should do what he wants. Ling Hu thanks him and leaves. Jaesong, in his thoughts, says that the blood of heroes runs in his veins. Already at the evaluation site, Jaesong says that now they will begin the comprehensive evaluations. He mentions that they are the promising talents who will lead the sect in the future, and we see all the brothers concentrated. Jaesong adds that to repay the master's generosity, they must fight to the best of their abilities. Jaesong shouts, asking if they understood, and they shout back affirmatively. The master looks at Ling Hu, who is among his disciples. The master wonders if Jaesong failed to make him give up. Ling Hu apologizes to the master, and in his thoughts, the master says that in the end, instead of inheriting his father's talent, Ling Hu inherited his stubbornness. Then, we see Ling Hu saying that Wei Jaesong wanted to take advantage of him just for something like this, so he tells himself that he will do his best. When Ling Hu is about to fight an opponent, the opponent attacks, nearly hitting Ling Hu. The opponent says there's no need for him to run, and he delivers a blow called Dark Double Fist, hitting Ling Hu. Ling Hu defends himself but feels the damage. Next, Wei Jaesong explains the fight, stating that Ling Hu is no match for Lim Chengyum and that Ling Hu is using all his strength to defend himself. In the ongoing fight, Chengyum says Ling Hu still has a long way to go and punches him again. Chengyum shouts that he has always hated him, delivering repeated punches, stating that every time he looks at Ling Hu, he remembers the wretch who was the son of a rich man who beat his parents to death. Chengyum says he will show his weakness to everyone, claiming that someone born with a silver spoon like him only believes in his own origins. Chengyum lunges towards Ling Hu, saying it will all end after fighting him. Everyone feels a murderous tension, and soon we see Ling Hu thrown away. Those around wonder what happened to Ling Hu, and we see Chengyum glaring at Ling Hu lying on the ground. Wei Jaesong quickly runs toward Ling Hu. When Wei Jaesong faces Chengyum, he mentions that as a member of a Taoist school, they pursue non-violence. Holding Ling Hu in his arms, Wei Jaesong says unless they are fighting a declared evil, they are taught not to put murderous intentions into their attacks. Chengyum says he committed to using basic combat. Wei Jaesong is stunned, and we soon see Ling Hu spitting blood. Wei Jaesong instructs someone to bring medicine immediately. Wei Jaesong then tells Ling Hu to regain consciousness, urging him to wake up, and suddenly gives Ling Hu a pill. When Ling Hu wakes up, he asks what they are doing and stares at Wei Jaesong. Ling Hu then asks if the disciples are safe. So we see a flashback of Dongfang Buble saying that he named himself that because he was never defeated. Returning to the fight, Wei Jaesong asks Ling Hu how he ended up like this and if he is awake. Ling Hu asks who the gorilla guy referring to Wei Jaesong is, and Ling Hu says he doesn't remember seeing him before. Wei Jaesong doesn't understand the situation, and Ling Hu asks where he is. Wei Jaesong wonders if he lost his memory when he hit his head on the ground. Wei Jaesong tells him to calm down because he passed out after a beating during his training and even coughed up blood. Everyone around Ling Hu is happy that he is alive. Then Ling Hu remembers the Demon Lord's flashback and wonders if he is the Invincible of the East. Wei Jaesong says he really hurt his head, and Ling Hu asks Wei Jaesong what name is this. Then all his memories return to his body, and in his thoughts he says that he is not Ling Hu Tian, but actually his son.